There was one boy on the first day of the yoga camp in Pondicherry. Now these children are so sensitive to the atmosphere of Pondi that we barely reached Pondi by 2:30. When I gather them for the orientation by 4, they are already feeling different. They have that kind of receptivity to the new consciousness. So this was over the orientation. We had reached Pondi at 2 o'clock, and I always start by asking them, how are you all feeling? And this boy told me this: over here, I don't feel the need to be heard or noticed by others. That stumped me, because what is the ego? It's the need to be heard and noticed by others. And all the narratives in our mind are about, how can I be noticed more? How can I appear to be more special? Now this boy, having come to Pondi, I hadn't done anything, no sessions, nothing. The atmosphere had taught him, his ego had thinned. He didn't care so much how he appeared in people's minds. This 13-year-old had heartwarmingly expressed that in the educational atmosphere provided in Pondicherry, he did not feel the agitating and competitive push of the ego to be in the limelight all the time. He could find his peace in being rather than doing. The ego finds peace in doing. Let me do this, let me look good. But when we are in being, in the I am that Sanaya talks about, I am in silence, I am. When we are in that, we find peace in that. Modern education has its roots in the industrial age. Human beings are treated like raw materials to be beaten into shape to become parts of a social machine. There is a pre-designed concept of what a child should grow up to be, and hence the natural unfolding of the child is thwarted. So in our schools, we have a concept that what is a model child? A model child is one who gets good grades, who's good at everything, blah, blah, blah. And we send children to school as if we are putting raw material into a soap machine. We want standard soap bars which all look the same to come out. But can that happen with human raw material? It cannot. But because we are forcing children to fit preconceived molds, they are losing their originality, they are losing. See, I often hear not only children, even adults. Nowadays, nobody wears this. Everybody uses this. So what am I hearing? Everybody uses this, so I should also use this. Nowadays, nobody wears that, so I should also not wear that. But where's my originality? Why am I all the time going with herd mentality and thinking what the masses do is good? May not be. Maybe what I do can be better than what the masses do. But that's our constant conditioning. And we Firbi survived it because we didn't have the evolutionary seed. But for the youth or the children of today, it's very difficult to survive that because they come with that evolutionary seed in them. The child is shown an image of what he has to grow into or be hammered into. As a result, at an early age, the student starts investing in building an image of himself in people's minds rather than in fulfilling potentials innate to him. This is a very important line. And this is where we all go wrong, not only children but even us. At a very young age, we are taught to invest into building an image of ourselves in people's mind. How should I act so that I look good in people's mind? Not how should I act so that I feel happy and good in myself. So that is our undoing. This leads to a loss of identity, self-deception, because if I'm all the time trying to look good in people's mind, I'll necessarily deceive myself. I'll pretend to be what I'm not. And consequent pretensions. This is the fundamental cause of depression and low self-worth in our youth. And for that, the media is largely responsible, because the media is also an alternate education which is constantly educating the youth to look a certain way, behave a certain way. This is cool, that is not cool. But have we looked inside to see what I really find cool? Why am I always letting the media tell me that this trend is cool? In Sri Aurobindo's model of integral education, we look at a child not as raw material for a machine, but as a conscious soul in the evolutionary journey. And that's how every parent and adult should look at a child, not as raw material for a machine. I'll bring you up in this way so that you learn these many lakhs a month, so that you marry a man who earns this much money and makes you. That's the future model I'm showing to my child. Why am I doing that? Why don't I allow her to grow along the lines that she wants? Understanding that every child grows along unique lines of development, integral education nourishes the child's unique and deepest aspiration. The education aims at the development of the child's personality to serve the soul, rather than the soul trapped by a socially conditioned, often dysfunctional personality. That's why so many youth have depression, because they have their soul is trapped by a socially conditioned dysfunctional personality. We haven't given a chance to the soul to outflower and bloom as it could. So that's why there are so many eating disorders in our youth. No, it's startling, the numbers that are growing. Practically out of 30 children in South Bombay schools, you will find 3 or 4 who have severe eating disorders like anorexia, and their parents don't even know about it. And when they confide in you as a teacher, sometimes you can't break the confidence and tell the parents. But it is so severe. So just look out for signs of sudden weight loss in your child. And typically when they have these disorders, because they are not getting the proper nutrients, their hair falls, they start getting acne on the skin. Look out for all these, because sometimes they are fighting a crippling eating disorder and the parent is completely oblivious. On open day when I meet them, I'm trying to give hints, but the parent is saying, no, my child eats very healthy and all that. And I'm bound by confidence to the child. Unless it gets very, very severe, then I'll cajole the child to confide in the parent herself, but I can't tell the parent. So the point is that such children are all the time seeing the media, all the time seeing these skinny figures and killing themselves. Bulimia is they are eating food and vomiting it out. And some children say that now they can't stop. It's almost a reflex. They'll eat food and they'll vomit it out. They can't stop it, even when they want to. So look out for these things and help the children out. So why is this eating disorder so rampant? Because the whole education and social conditioning is so much about appearances, appear a certain way. We often tell our children, so fat you are, who will marry you? You better lose weight before I start showing you in arranged marriage. All these kind of things are very, very detrimental to children. Why can't we tell them that even plump is beautiful? There are some children who carry plumpness so well and they look so good even with that fat on them. Why are we always hammering into them to look a certain way? So I had one child who had years ago, very severe anorexia, not bulimia. She was not puking out her food. but severe anorexia, where she was scared of food. All the time her mind was about, what will I do at the next meal? How will I devise a way to eat less at the next meal? Crazy thoughts. Suppose I go and teach in the slums. In the slums anyway there's less food, so I'll have less to eat. And I'm talking about a child who was the topper of her class, that intelligent, but these kind of crazy thoughts start going on in the child's mind. But one saving grace was, this child was very, very, very connected to the mother and a very regular at the Saturday sessions here. So we worked with various things, and she learnt up one passage of Savitri, which I'll share with you. And every time that machinery of thoughts of anorexia came, you're no good, you're so, and she was like a skeleton, and she would show me her arm and said, see how fat my arms are, miss. That's the kind of trick. It totally warps the mind, and you can't convince the child. You have to just say okay. She'll never believe you if you tell her you don't have fat on your arm. So the point is, whenever all those thoughts would start in her head, she learnt up this passage from Savitri: across the awful march no eye can see, the awful march of thoughts in your head. Barring the dreadful route no will can change. So it's a imagery which shows mother standing and your mind like a machine who's coming charging at you, and mother standing in the way of that machine, blocking it. This reminds me, I heard this story. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's hearsay, but it deserves to be true. Apparently during the tsunami, there was a little girl who apparently told her mother, Mama, come see, there's that figure standing over the sea like this. She'd seen a huge figure in white with her hands like this, blocking out the destruction of tsunami. And we do know that when tsunami hit, the ashram strip was untouched. This side of the ashram strip, this side of the ashram strip devastated. But it really looked like across the awful march of nature also, mother was standing. Across the awful march no eye can see, barring the dreadful route no will can change. She stood facing the engines of the universe. A heart stood in the way of its driving wheels. It's the mother's loving heart which stood rock solid in the way of the driving wheels. Its stark conventions met the flame of her soul. So this child would visualize this whole thinking of anorexia coming towards her like a machine, and mother standing in the way, blocking it, and she would repeat these lines again and again and again, and she would find that eventually that whole formation of anorexia would ease.